Well, hello, hello. How are you doing post Valentine's Day? I'm wondering if you have a lot of candy around, whether that's things that were given to you, to your child, whether they were things you purchased. I know these holidays often can bring a lot of chocolates and sweets and other things, and that can feel a little bit tricky to navigate. Even after. And sometimes we want to go to just throw it all away. Let's get it out of here because I don't want to deal with it. And that could be because you have concerns about having it around for yourself or for your child. And while there's nothing wrong with getting rid of food if we don't want it, we also want to be mindful of why we're doing that and what message that might be sending to ourselves and to our child about candy and other sweets. Right? Are we making them feel available, or are we making them feel off limits in some way? Are we making our child feel like they can't trust themselves to be around candy or to navigate that? And so we need to get rid of it. Are we making it seem like candy and sweets are bad by getting rid of them? So I want you to be mindful about the message that that might send, right? When we get rid of things, it feels a lot of times like they're going to be going away. So then the next time candy or sweets are around, we treat it like the Last Supper mentality because we don't trust that we're really allowed to have them or that they're going to be around. And we see that a lot with things like going to the birthday party, or I have so many stories of friends sharing, they would have a neighborhood friend over who wasn't allowed to have sweets in their house. And then once the neighborhood friend would come over and play with their kids and leave, they would find the wrappers all over because they ate all the fruit roll-ups, or shaking sprinkles into their mouth in the garage, hiding with the sprinkles thing because they weren't allowed access. So when we're trying to control those situations more, and then our child is in these other situations where candy, sweets, other sugar is available, how might they react then if they don't think they're really allowed to have it or to have enough access to it? So something to consider, and one of the reasons we don't just want to get rid of it, plus we should all be able to enjoy it. I personally enjoy some chocolate, so we should also be able to enjoy it and have what we want, okay? So what I want to talk about, though, is that kind of tricky piece of having it after. What do we do with this candy, especially if there's an abundance of it? So you know that you probably don't want to throw it away or just get rid of it, but how do we handle it? So if you didn't catch it, last week I shared more about how to handle it the day of, then what to do with it after, and how to keep providing it. So we do want to give regular access to it. You can go check that out for more details. But what I want to talk about even more today is how do we just kind of deal with having the candy around, with the potential consequences of that, what we should expect. Because if you have been in a space where you have been restricting sweets in some way, and restriction can come from lots of different places. So if you have been restricting sweets in some way, and it could be mentally by the way you're talking about them, if you're talking about them as being sometimes foods, unhealthy, junk food, something we shouldn't have too much of, that if you've been talking about how we need to eat our other foods, our growing foods, our strong foods before we have sweets, if you have been bribing with them, like finish your dinner, if you want dessert, eat 2 bites of your broccoli, if you want dessert, clean up your room, and then you can have a candy or a sucker, right? Like all of those things, okay? If you've been creating some sense of deprivation around them, which is like a restriction, right? Then your child is going to feel like they're off limits, and off limits typically means I'm going to want them more, right? That's what scarcity does to us as all humans. What we feel like we can't have or we shouldn't have, we end up wanting more. We think about it more, we want it more. So if there has been any sense of this forbidden fruit, scarcity or deprivation around sweets, you can expect that your child is going to want them more when they are around. That's just a normal reaction. And it's also normal to be excited about holiday candy. Even if your child has a completely healthy relationship with sweets, It is normal to still be excited. It's fun to get a gift, right? It's fun to get sweets, especially if they're different shapes. They're types of candy that we don't usually have year round. That's going to be normal. So what we don't want to do is see a normal behavior and then think something's wrong. They're obsessed with sugar. I have to control it. I have to limit it, because we're only going to create more scarcity around it. And if you see your child very interested in candy, potentially eating more than you would think they normally would or should, check in with yourself to think, has there been a sense of scarcity or deprivation in any way? Has that been going on? Okay. Again, mentally, or have we not been making it available? Do we only have sweets once a week on Fridays? Or do we have a no sugar house, but they can have them at birthday parties? Or every time we offer sweets, is it a very limited portion? You get one cookie, one piece of candy. Okay. So it could be in the way we're talking about sweets. It also could be in the actual amount that we are providing that can create this sense of lack. And just, we're not really allowed access to it. And then I'm going to want it even more. So that's the first step, is kind of assessing, has that been going on? Because then I should expect that my child is going to be more interested in sweets when they are around. And even if I'm starting to make them more available, because now I realize, well, that wasn't really working, right? I was creating the forbidden fruit. So now I want to start shifting it. They're going to need to go through that phase of having more permission and kind of rebounding from it, right? Like if you think of a pendulum swinging or a slingshot, think of like pulling the slingshot back, the more energy that was there from restrictive energy, right? Pow, the more they're going to be drawn towards it. So just knowing that and expecting that. Okay. So plan on that to happen. So you don't think something's going wrong. You just want to know that's likely going to be the case. Then you might have some scenarios that come up where your child does eat more than feels good. Maybe they even get a tummy ache and don't feel well from it. Maybe that's because they ate in abundance at once. Maybe that's because that's primarily what they're eating for a couple days, not a lot of other food. Those things happen, okay? And it's completely normal, and they're great learning experiences. So we don't necessarily want to prevent it. And I'm not being a masochist and say we're trying to make our kids sick and not feel well. I'm not trying to encourage it. I'm just saying that that's a very natural consequence to have that happen. I eat too much candy, I don't feel well. And that's exactly how we want to approach the situation with our child, without judgment. It's just a completely natural consequence. And we want to guide them through this. Like if they're saying, oh, I don't feel well, my tummy hurts, we might ask, what do you think happened? That's a bummer. I hate it when my tummy doesn't hurt. What we want to avoid is, I told you not to eat so much candy, right? Or something that says sugar is bad. Well, you shouldn't eat so much sugar. That's what'll happen. We don't want to create a sense of guilt or shame around it. And we don't want them to interpret the food as being bad either. Okay? So you want to just neutralize the whole experience. That is a totally normal thing to happen, and it's going to be okay. When we have natural consequences, those experiences, our children learn so much more, and then they're better able to tune in next time and think, do I want to keep eating this? Do I want the tummy ache? And they might do it multiple times, right? But we're allowing them to learn to self-regulate. When we create that guilt and shame though, they're just going to beat themselves up, and then they end up in that cycle like so many adults do. And maybe this is you, where you tell yourself you shouldn't eat so much, and then you end up eating more, and then you beat yourself up about it. And then you do it again, right? And you just keep cycling through that same thing, and it just ingrains it more and more, where you think, I can't be trusted. I'm out of control with sweets. I can't be around them. And you're just beating yourself up. And cycles of guilt and shame don't motivate us to make change. But just having an experience where then they can kind of decide, do I want to do that again or not? And we don't have to have judgment as parents either about a tummy ache or about them choosing to eat more. Like, that's just their experience. So we want to neutralize the food and neutralize the experience. Okay, so it's normal for them to be more interested in candy and sweets. It is normal for them to eat more than feels good. Not everybody will do it, but they might. And then we want to help them just have an experience around it, as opposed to creating judgment about it. So allow your child to have those experiences, because they will learn so much more from them than any lecture. Any lecture that you give, any learning that you're trying to teach, they're likely only going to push back and rebel against, right? Like, they don't want me to eat so much chocolate, so I'm going to try to get more. That's what kids do. It's normal. But if they have an experience, then they're more likely to decide, do I want to feel like that again? I know my children bring that up on their own now because they've had those experiences. And I've heard them tell the other one, remember when I ate that whole bag of candy? I didn't feel good. You might not want to eat all of that. They'll say that. Or they'll say, will you save this for me? I don't want it all right now. Or I'm getting full. Can you save it? Okay. That's what we want, is that internal self-regulation that just comes from a neutral place. Okay. But we have to make the food feel available so they're not reacting to it, so that they're just able to listen to their internal cues, to learn from their experiences, instead of reacting to rules or boundaries that we set, or reacting to the idea of good food versus bad food. Okay. So know that having more sweets available might mean your child will eat more. If it's been restricted in any way in the past, they likely will eat more and be more interested in it for a while. And if that's continuing on and on and on after months, you might want to take a look back and think, are sweets really feeling available to my child? Or is there something that's still going on that's preventing them from truly feeling like they have permission and they're allowed to have them? Is that the way that I'm serving sweets? Is that the way that we're talking about it? Are they getting information from other places like school that's making it feel that way? Okay. Kind of do some assessing. If I were my child, how would I likely feel about sweets and sugar? And think about whether or not they would feel available. They would feel like they have permission to have them. And if you have stuff coming up for you around this, then that's just a good signal too, that you might want to do some work with yourself around whether or not you feel like you have permission to eat the foods you want and enjoy, whether you're beating yourself up over it. And most of us do, because we live in a culture, a diet culture, that tells us there are good foods and bad foods, and we can't trust ourselves, that we need these external guidelines and diet plans for the right time of eat, to eat in the right portions, right? So if you notice that coming up in you, you might want to look more into eating intuitively, building trust in yourself, so that you also can trust your child. It's not just about that. It's about you building this relationship for yourself, but it's a double whammy when it's going to help you parent around food even better, even more in tune, even more trusting. All right. That is it for today. I hope you had a lovely Valentine's Day. I hope you are navigating the candy and sweets in a way that feels good to you. And if you are not, let me know, and let me know if you have any questions or in what way I can support you with that. All right. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.